Personally, I absolutely subscribe to the camp that The Last of Us 2 did not need a remake or remaster, considering it came out at the ass end of the PS4's life cycle. I know that little console came out 10 years ago, but the game still looked and played phenomenally because developers absolutely pushed that little console to its maximum. Fast forward to January 19th of 24, and you're going to have the opportunity to slide another $10 to Sony, that's if you already own the PS4 version, to upgrade to the PS5 enhanced version, which we're going to cover in this video, all the differences to this new remaster for the PS5 console. Then I'm going to give you my thoughts as to, did this remaster need to occur? Did this need to exist? Am I going to be playing it? And some of my general thoughts on Naughty Dog games. Let's get it. So real quick, I just rolled out of bed, rolled out of the cot, unzipped myself from the sleeping bag, considering it's 20 degrees here in Florida currently. I didn't even know it got that cold, but it does. So first of all, grabbing the trunk of the elephant in the room and jerking the water out of its snout. Should this remaster exist? No, quite simply. I just watched Digital Foundry's video where they did some side-by-side comparison. Lovely video. In order to tell a genuine visual difference, you pretty much have to be pixel popping, zooming in on foliage and whatnot. There was a really good PS4 to 5 source code patch, which enhanced the PS4 version to make it better on the PS5. That dropped in 2021, and now we're getting the next stage of that with a full-blown remaster. $10 if you already own the game. If you have the disc version, you have to have the disc in to activate that discount. If you have a digital version, obviously having it in your PSN account is enough. So that's great that if you already own it, you're not being charged full retail for a remaster that I genuinely think shouldn't even exist. And I think if Naughty Dog and Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, wanted to remaster a game, specifically a killer Naughty Dog title, they should be shifting their gaze towards Uncharted 1 through 3, considering the only titles that have been remastered and ported over to PC were the ass end of the franchise, where if you jump into the story there, it's kind of like we're of course talking about 4, A Thief's End, and then Lost Legacy, which isn't even a Nathan Drake title. You're actually playing as Chloe, which is cool and all, but yeah, it's different. It's a different vibe for sure. Partially because you don't have Nolan North's killer witty banter. He's the voice actor for Nathan Drake and like a bajillion other video game characters.
Let's get to 5 and then we'll answer that. It was a Christopher Walken type thing, first job ever. Bang. It was something like this.
80s, and I don't remember.
I started doing something, but I thought I was replaced.
But popping up a safe distance in front of my face here is going to be the commercial success of the Uncharted series. It does phenomenal. In fact, it even sold more units than The Last of Us. Has its own movie, not very great. It's Tom Holland and Marky Mark. I did review it on the channel. As a standalone action movie, if you're just going in there to see some shooting and whatnot, it'll tickle that itch for you. But if you're a fan of the game, you're going to be super confused because a lot of the core fundamentals of the story are completely wrong, like how Nathan and Sully meet, the entire interactions with Chloe, everything's just a little bit not matching up with the game. But Uncharted 1 through 3, actually, we'll just say the first game, the very first game that was a launch title for the PS3. Technically, it came out 8 days after the launch of the PS3, but it was within the launch window. I remember it was slathered all over the box of the PS3. But the fact of the matter is, Last of Us 2 already looked and played phenomenally on the PS4, especially if you had a PS4 Pro, and then if you have a PS5, there was this update that occurred in 2021 that made it even better. So this is such a small, marginal, gotta zoom in to tell a difference upgrade or enhancement. Now, the thing you're probably going to notice the most is going to be the features of the DualSense controller, because it's something tactile that you can feel. And then obviously the new roguelike mode, which my opinion on that is at least play through it normally, maybe on a harder difficulty if you want the NPCs to really bust your nuts in gunplay before you dabble with the roguelike, or definitely with the speedrun mode, because the story really isn't meant to be rushed. You want to savor those moments, so the kills actually are a little bit more satisfying because there's weight to them. Like, you actually give a shit about the NPC enemies that you're putting down, especially in Last of Us 2, because they call each other by name. So you're in a gunfight and they're like, oh, damn it, she just killed Brad, no. If you kill one of their dogs, the handler is like losing their shit because you just killed their pet that they're bonded with. The roguelike mode is a cool new way to experience it. Basically, you survive waves of enemies, and if you die, you don't respawn, just like a roguelike. Cool new way to experience the pretty good snappy gunplay fundamentals of Last of Us. In fact, third-person shooter-wise, Uncharted and Last of Us are very satisfying in the shooting department. Now, this was phenomenal news to see, and also a little bit surprising from Sony, because we saw what happened with Ghost of Tsushima, where they were originally charging an absolute premium for the PS5 version. However, down the road meaning 3 weeks later, because of the customer feedback, i.e. getting slapped around on social media, Sony said, okay, take it easy. It is now a $10 upgrade. Same thing here, a $10 US upgrade if you have the PS4 version. And what's cool about that is you can actually import your saves. So if you've already beaten the story and you've unlocked New Game Plus mode, where you transfer over all of your gear, you should be able to port that over to this remastered John. on. When can you actually play this game? That's important to know. It's going to be January 19th, so 2 days away. Re-experience or discover for the first time Ellie and Abby's emotional journey with the definitive way to play The Last of Us Part 2. Spoiler alert incoming. Spoiler alert incoming. The emotional journey, I'm going to summarize it for you real quick. Keep in mind, I'm going to be reviewing this game down the road. Unlike the first game, which had a pretty simple core fundamental story, but the bond between Joel and Ellie was really what made the story what it was, because Joel has a second chance at being a father. Ellie's discovering the world for the evils that it is. It's beautiful, beautiful piece. And when TLOU2 dropped, rather than a piece of ass, a piece of shit was the consensus story-wise, whether it's because people were bitter that the main character gets schwacked pretty quickly and you're playing as the big mammoth brute that killed him. That's a problem for a lot of people. But the whole story in a nutshell is you kill my friends, so I kill you friends back, but revenge is bad. That's the final lesson. Revenge is bad, so we're going to leave each other alive. Coming out of the spoiler territory now, back to I've never played the game before and it's safe for me to be here. If you do not own the PS4 version, you are going to be paying $49. So as far as what's actually been added, enhanced, or changed with this new version, you do have technological improvements, new modes, and behind the scenes features that deepen your understanding of Part 2's creation. So that's the summary of all the details we're going to get down here. There is a new roguelike mode, which I'm going to touch on when I actually review the game. But in that roguelike mode, you're going to have a host of playable characters to choose from, some of which are playable for the first time. And they're going to have their own traits to suit different play styles. Players can also chart their own course in each run. Keep in mind, since it's a roguelike, they're going to be runs. Choose between various stealth and combat encounters that will pit you against a range of enemies with unique twists that can add a new and unexpected factor to any given encounter. So a new way to play the game, but not really story-based or anything. It's just running around, taking hard cover, shooting the shit out of enemies. You now have a guitar free play mode, so you can just pick yourself acoustic and start twanging the strings. That's something you'll probably do once or twice and never again, because it's a very basic, minimalistic side game. You've got a unique chance to check out some playable sequences that are previously cut from the game. These are not fully finished levels, but rather early development slices that not only let you see some new glimpses of the Part 2's world, but they also include embedded developer commentary to give you richer context as to what the shit you're doing. So some cool little in-game sequences, mini games, little tidbits, mini levels that you can test out that were removed prior to launch. Newly recorded director commentary across the campaign's cutscenes from Neil Druckmann, Haley Gross, Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, and Laura Bailey. I hardly ever do the commentary thing. It's kind of like confusing to listen to. You have the cutscenes voice actors, and then you've got like 3 people talking over it, the developers, and if you're a huge fan of the game and you want to find out all the intricacies of how it was designed, you might want to pop the commentary on. Here we go. Now this is something that we can all enjoy. Enhanced graphics, including native 4K output. That's only in fidelity mode. If you go in performance, you're at upscaled 1440p, which is absolutely the mode that I would recommend. An unlocked frame rate option for TVs that support VRR, or variable refresh rate. Increased texture resolution, I should hope so. Increased LOD, in case you're just listening along and you're not reading along with me. That stands for level of detail distances, so a low mo draw distance on there. Improved shadow quality, animation sampling rate, and more. Why do they do this? Just tell me the rest of it. Since we're on the SSD and not the mechanical hard drive, you now have improved load times. Now, I personally think this should have been changed with that update from 2 years ago to the PS5 version, but maybe they were saving it for this full-blown remaster. You also, of course, have new features for the DualSense controllers, such as haptic feedback and adaptive triggers that get stiffer or lighter depending on the action on screen. And you're going to have all of those awesome accessibility features and options from Part 1 transferred over, so if you have any physical limitations or disabilities, there's probably a setting to help you out here. There's also the ability to unlock bonus skins for Ellie, Abby, and their weapons, which is mentioned would look really good in photo mode. Photo modes existed, but you know, they're saying, hey, these new skins would look really dank in the photo mode. And if you've played Last of Us Part 1 Remaster, you're going to notice some techniques such as dynamic lighting, frame forward, and gaze direction, alongside new frame and logo options. And if you're a big fan and you want some physical goodies to set out on your desk, there's also the WLF or Wolf Edition, which includes a steelbook display case, 4 enamel pins, a Washington Liberation front patch, and a total of 47 Society of the Champion trading cards, including 8 holographics. What's pretty cool about that is these were in-game cards that you would collect, and now you can physically touch them. Granted, it's just knocking coins out of our coin purse, but it's really cool to get merch like that that's in-game. Generally, Bethesda does a really good job with that. Their merch store has a bunch of little goodies from inside. Actually, I have something right here for you. Not the coolest game in the world, and it definitely has a lot of complaints from a lot of people, but this is some of the currency from Starfield. It was one of my Christmas gifts. Little stocking stuffer action. Pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, Abby looks pretty badass right there with that shotty. I don't like what you did to my man's Joel. I'll tell you that though. And this is yet another reason that I recommend getting the optical disc drive drive, a real version of the PS5 as opposed to that little digital John. Upgrades for disc copies of the PS4 version do require you to have a disc drive. So if you bought the disc version and now you have a digital only PS5 console, you cannot take advantage of this $10 upgrade because you need to slide that disc into the disc slot. But for moi personally, since I already have the digital PS4 version and I don't have to insert the disc every time, I think that's really dumb. I can understand having to insert the disc at least one time just to confirm that you do indeed own it, and then that way it'll unlock the download. But having to have the disc in the reader every time that you want to play the digital version that you upgrade to. Now, I did recently play through Last of Us 2 start to finish about a year ago, so it's all fresh on the back of the noggin. However, I am going to be getting this upgrade not only to review it so I can share with my audience the difference in visuals, and gameplay is going to be identical. Story is going to be identical. Again, it's just small graphical enhancements. That's from the words of Digital Foundry, although there is a couple of cutscenes where Ellie's big old cartoon bug eyes kind of get tamed down to look a lot more natural. That was really noticeable. But for the most part, when you're playing through it, you're just running around shooting. You're not really staring at like individual textures for too long. Probably not going to make a huge difference. Foliage, things like blades of grass will, especially if you pop it in fidelity mode. And if you uncap the frame rate, there's a 4K 40 frame per second mode, but you have to do a little background trickery in the settings to get that to work. But I'm always looking for an excuse to wet my whistle, wet my beak on another Naughty Dog experience, whether it's playing through Uncharted or Last of Us again. Granted, Last of Us 2 is probably my least favorite Naughty Dog experience, but still a good one for sure. Even looking back to like Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, they've been making bangers for a hot minute consistently. So make sure you subscribe so you catch my thoughts in the full comprehensive review, which will be dropping, well, the game comes out on the 19th. Give me a couple of days to beat that son of a bitch into the ground and then gather my thoughts into a deliverable format. Drop in the comment section below your thoughts on Last of Us 1 and 2, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more stallions and stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.